You're listening to Inside Content, the TV industry podcast. This show is brought to you by 3Vision, a global TV industry consultancy specialising in content acquisition, strategy, research, and business development. Each episode, we give you VIP access to the views and experiences of senior TV executives and discuss the latest TV industry trends and insights.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Content. I'm Jack Thomas, Director at 3Vision, and today I'm joined by Carlyn Staudt, President of Global Channels and Streaming at Blue Ant Media. In this conversation, we talk about why owning IP is the foundation for global success, how Blue Ant windows and monetizes content across platforms and territories, and why pay TV still plays a meaningful role, not just for revenue stability, but even for financing and localization advantages. We also explore what's changing in fast and connected TV, why Carlyn believes advertisers will follow the audience, and how YouTube is becoming both a monetization pillar and a powerful way to cultivate freedom and insights into your audience.
Introducing Video Markets Tracker from 3Vision, your go-to source for global TV data. We offer regularly updated regional and global reports covering pay TV, SVOD, AVOD, and FAST across Africa, MENA, the Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific. Make smarter decisions with insights you can trust. Learn more at 3vision.tv. Now, on to the episode.
Hi, Carlyn. How are you doing?
Good. Hi, Jack. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us on Inside Content. So I guess before we dive in, probably the best thing to do is set the scene. Can you let our listeners in on what your role is at Blue Ant Media and what kind of sits within your remit as the President of Global Channels and Streaming?
Sure. I'm President of Global Channels and Streaming, as you said. Just to give those listeners who aren't familiar with Blue Ant kind of context about what Blue Ant is, who we are. We're a Canadian company. We're headquartered out of Toronto, Canada. And we have offices in LA, New York, Washington, D.C., where I'm actually based. We have London, Singapore, Sydney. So really a global media company with offices around the world. Blue Ant has several different divisions. We're a producer. We produce hundreds of hours of content for many different buyers around the world. We're also a rights distributor. We distribute those rights. And we own and operate channels around the world, and that's the division that I run. We have two flagship brands, really, Love Nature, which is our natural history and wildlife brand, as well as Magellan TV, which is a premium documentary brand that broadcasts science, history, true crime, nature, all high-end documentaries. And under those two brands, I run pay TV, traditional channels. I run a bouquet of about 14 fast channels. We are the proud owner of a subscription video on demand service that we acquired through Magellan TV earlier this fall. And we run YouTube channels. So we're really diversified in our portfolio and how we reach audiences. And I oversee all of that.
Excellent. So I guess an inevitable question that comes when you have a job title like President of Global Channels and Streaming, how do you balance the focus between channels and streaming?
Well, I see them all as one thing, to be honest with you. I don't really think about them separately. I just think about reaching audiences with great content, and how that content moves between different platforms is really not a concern to me. It's really about reaching audiences.
And so obviously we see there's always a lot of chatter about the pressure that channels are under. It's not like streamings are necessarily completely able to avoid such pressures, but with that in mind, in terms of the pressures that are on traditional channels, what does success look like for you today in that area, particularly as there are certain pressures into different markets?
Sure. First and foremost, I think one thing that I concentrate on is owning IP. And as a company, Blue Ant is very focused on that. Because once you own your IP, you can move that IP across branded channels. You can move it into streaming environments, sometimes in a branded way, sometimes not. And you can window that IP in really creative ways globally, all the while cultivating these passionate audiences who are in defined genres that travel well. So success for me, first and foremost, is owning that IP, windowing it, monetizing it successfully across multiple different platforms. I also think about how we partner with platforms. So success for me is when we have partnerships with platforms where they're promoting your content, they're highlighting your content, they're giving you really premium position on EPGs, their electronic programming guides, they're marketing your content on their owned and operated platforms. That's also a big winner of success for us.
Okay. And so obviously you've talked about outside of just traditional paid TV channels, you've got your 14 fast channels, you engage with YouTube channels on that channel space, that sort of slightly more fungible than it used to be linear space. There's a lot that's going on there. Where is the place for that traditional pay TV in that? Is it obviously once that was many for a lot of this type of content, the be all and end all? Is it now? Is it still quite a high value, or is it more of an opportunity for some of that IP that you own to get out there and be promoted for people to then find it elsewhere?
Pay TV still has a place in the ecosystems. It's still making money for us without a doubt. It's an important pillar in how we think about our revenue. We have pay premium channels all around the globe, especially with our Love Nature flagship channel. We also run pay TV bouquet in Canada through our Canadian media networks. And it has several different purposes. It's a subscription run rate business, which means as someone who is looking at the bottom line and thinking about how you're generating revenue, having a reliable subscription run rate that you can depend on year after year through multi-year deals is important as you're beginning to layer in more advertising products that are at the whim of the advertising market. So it definitely has a place in my revenue portfolio. Also, because we're a Canadian company and we're based in Toronto and we operate pay TV channels in Toronto, we can trigger soft money out of government grants in order to finance our programming. And that's a real advantage for us in the marketplace to have that financing option. And without that pay TV outlet in Canada, it would be difficult to do that. So yeah, it's still important in the mix, in the diversified mix of revenue. And I don't undervalue that in that regard.
And I imagine, particularly with the kind of IP that you own, the type of content that you're able to produce has a good reach globally, isn't too Canadian specific.
That's right. We produce content in specific genres that we know will travel really well. Natural history and wildlife, easy traveler across the globe, science, history, true crime. All of these genres have a global audience. And so our pay TV services also allow us the vehicle to language a lot of content. Because of that reliable subscription run rate revenue, we're able to invest in commissioning content and then also languaging it. So then when we go into, I would say, more of an emerging streaming market where you need to window that content then into fast, a lot of publishers aren't able to bring those localized assets to bear. And because we have a robust global pay TV business, we're able to then bring those assets onto a FAST platform, an AVOD platform, or use them across our SVOD, Magellan TV.
Okay, that's exciting. So a little long-standing foundation built from the traditional pay TV business now paying off really well on the streaming side.
That's exactly right. And those who kind of jumped forward and never had that pay TV presence, I think they're finding it much harder in the new streaming environments. They don't have that foundational asset.
Mm. And so on that content side, we've established you've got a lot of content that has a great global reach. You've got the parameters there in place to make it so it's easily localized and ready to go. In terms of the actual distribution of that, there's different cases in different markets. Fast is very strong in North America, and some European markets and other markets isn't quite as strong. Different levels of streaming service have different levels of accessibility and pickup rate from subscribers. How do you navigate that approach in terms of trying to make sure the strategy globally can fit these different idiosyncrasies of different markets?
Yeah, I think that where our advantage lies in that we do own so much of that content. So when we go out to the distribution market and assess country by country, sometimes territory by territory, what's happening there? Where do we want to go first? Do we want to place our content first on a fast network and just bypass pay TV? That's what we did in the US. We just skipped right over pay TV in the US and went fast first in 2019, where we were one of the first adapters in that space. And so that gave us a real advantage, and we were able to do that. But then in the other markets, we look and say, gosh, maybe partnering with someone is the right way to go. And we partnered with Sky, and we supplied Sky our natural history catalog, and they launched Sky Nature off of it. So that was in the UK, Germany, and Italy. But owning that content allowed us, the flexibility to say, hey, instead of going into a really competitive market, we'll actually partner first with someone who's established there. So we did that in UK, Germany, and Italy. Then, there's other markets around EMEA and Latin America where pay is really still vibrant. And then others where we can see an opportunity to do pay and SVOD and cross promote between those two platforms. So it's really territory by territory, country by country. And owning the IP allows us to be agile in that way, which I think has been really a huge advantage in helping us become a global media player.
Absolutely. I imagine the big part in helping you get out quite as early as you say in 2019 on the fast front.
Yes, that was a huge advantage for us. There were so many legacy media companies in the US who were like, ooh, what is this fast thing? We want to keep our content behind our paywalls. We don't want to give it out. And we went running towards it and said, yes, this is a real advantage for us. We can actually not be tied into anything and constricted. We can actually really lean into it in a big way. And it was a major payoff for us.
And so 2019, so almost 7 years ago now, seems like it shouldn't be that long, but it is. In terms of how you view fast now, is that still a big growth area for you? Is that just kind of nice little bit of extra pocket money on top of what else you have, or is it becoming more part of the kind of firm and structure of Blue Ant as a whole, do you think?
I think it's definitely going to be a revenue pillar for us moving forward, without a doubt. Is it evolving? Yes, for sure. And I think that that's the real trick, is staying ahead of that evolution. I am a firm believer that advertisers will go where the audience is. And we've seen globally across our portfolio a 32% increase in time spent on our portfolio. And that means viewers are coming and they're continuing to grow. And so my sense is advertisers will follow, and we will continue to reap the benefits of FAST. Now, that doesn't mean we can't, sit back and relax. We have to be thinking about how we take advantage of those eyeballs and how we interact with the advertising market. I don't think going it on programmatic alone is going to do it. And I think how we're strategic about entering a direct sales space, how we think about interacting with advertisers in different ways with our brands. I think all of that is going to be super important as this fast and connected TV ecosystem develops.
Okay. And so I'm sure a lot of our listeners will probably see month to month the Nielsen's viewer report come out, whether it's them looking it up themselves or someone posting about it on LinkedIn. It's a very popular thing to talk about. And obviously, the big story with that month to month is how high the portion of viewers are watching YouTube rather than SVOD or any traditional platforms. What is Blue Ant's approach to YouTube, and how important is it to your overall channels and streaming strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'd have to be under a rock not to be paying attention to what's going on YouTube. Everybody is. I think YouTube, again, is just yet another monetization pillar for us. It's another window for us to reach audiences with. And that's certainly how we think about it, how we develop brands that are specific for YouTube, that you might not see in our fast portfolio, you might not see in our pay TV portfolio. um, it's also a moment where you can interact with your community that you've reached and develop it further. So YouTube being a social digital platform, not just a streaming platform, not just a connected TV platform of sorts. It is really a moment to interact with your fandom and cultivate it and find out things from it. And what I mean from that, what's working? What do they like? What do they want to see more of? That interaction is so crucial when you're developing audiences, when you're thinking about what genres to pivot into. And so not only is there a monetization opportunity, there's an audience cultivation opportunity.
And do you think the kind of feedback that you are able to pass from interact with the YouTube community is something that could be actioned across all your distribution channels? Obviously, there'd be some people very cynically who might think, well, people who watch YouTube or any interesting 30-second clips aren't interested in traditional programming. Do you find that the feedback from engaging in that community is valuable everywhere, or does it feel like very tied to a kind of niche of audience within YouTube?
That is a really great question. I actually saw it happen today. We had a hit on one of our true crime YouTube channels that we run. And we looked at the patterns of it, and we started to talk to our marketing team who's running the Magellan SVOD, where we have quite a bit of crime content on that. And so we were feeding information back and forth based on what we were seeing on YouTube, what we wanted to implement to market to a specific audience on our SVOD. And then we have every intent of bringing that back to our production teams at Blue Ant Studios and saying, listen, we're onto something. We just saw this on YouTube with some of our audience and that we've been playing with, and we think we should develop more content in that way. So it is such a powerful tool for collecting first-party data and interacting with a very specific fandom, that you can then begin to super serve that fandom in various different platforms around the ecosystem that you control.
That's really exciting. You've got the kind of internal dynamism, I suppose you'd say, to be able to react to that and talk about it with all the kind of arms of the company as well. That you're not so partitioned off that this kind of feedback can't get out there. So that's really exciting to hear that you're able to sort of pull that together. YouTube is is one part, well, like one big part, social network and the community, and obviously a lot of what you talk about there also is on a simple level a third party platform to be able to potentially distribute your content. And so on that level, I mean, how do you view sort of slightly more formal ones, let's say like Amazon channels, where there's opportunity for people to subscribe directly through their Amazon subscription?
Yeah, I think third-party platforms play a really important role in the ecosystem for publishers like myself. They have aggregated audience through their scale, and through that, they're almost like a giant marketing engine for some of us. We couldn't reach that type of viewer or that viewer at that scale without some of these third-party platforms. And I think they're super important for us as publishers moving forward. They play a role of marketer, a role of helping us super serve our audiences. So yeah, it's important to play in that basket as well as the direct to consumer ourself. It's just another tool that we're using.
It's exciting. And so I mean, in that direct consumer conversation, you've obviously talked about Magellan already, but they're not. You've been quite busy in a lot of ways with both Boat Rocker and Thunderbird and Magellan as well. Is there a common thread behind those kind of acquisitions, or is it something as simple as gathering up more IP, or is there something else there to leverage that differentiates each of those decisions?
Yeah, I think when we talk about our M&A strategy internally, we talk about two things a lot. One, scaling our global channels and streaming business in a meaningful way. And at the same time, strengthening our studio's capacity, our capacity to produce and distribute content. And it's really the idea of some of these acquisitions is building that interconnected, diversified global media business where production, distribution, owned and operated brands are kind of all working in a synergy with each other. And this allows us to really maximize the value of our peak, of our IP globally. And control that content from start to finish. And that creates a real value for us as a company. So as we look at these acquisitions, those are kind of the two things that we think about. How can we continue to feed scaling our global channels and streaming business, and how can we strengthen our ability to produce and distribute content?
And how are you finding these kind of acquisitions are sort of changing, or well, perhaps a better word is empowering the conversations that you have with global platforms that you're potentially trying to license to, with other distributors, with advertisers? How is that helping sort of leverage yourselves in those types of negotiations?
Well, I think certainly these last three acquisitions have reinforced that we are really a global leader in factual programming, without a doubt. We are one of the major factual programming brands. At the same time, it allows us to diversify into other genres. Certainly, the animation, kids, young adult area is a space that is growing through these acquisitions as well. It increases our commissioning power. Having more scale as a distributor ourselves allows us to creatively finance programming, to have an owned and operated outlet to put it on. So in the marketplace, it really gives us a lot of commissioning power and different ways to partner with people in that way. Because we're owning the IP, we can do creative rights sharing with platforms. And so creating opportunity through that as well. And because we're cultivating some really strong genre and audience categories, I think, watch this space, but we're going to be more and more enticing to advertisers as they're looking to more super serve fandoms with advertising, specific advertising. And so I think it's a real powerful time right now for Blue Ant as we bolt on these acquisitions to grow into a very, very meaningful global media business.
Yeah, so like you say, it sounds like an extremely exciting time at Blue Ant. We're almost out of time now for today, unfortunately. But I guess it sounds like this might be a tough question for you. Yeah, what is the kind of one thing that you're most excited about with the next phase of Blue Ant Media?
Yeah, that is a tough question because there's so much going on. I think for me, we've established ourselves as a factual leader. What are some other genres that we're really going to lean into and grow into? We just bulked up through the acquisition with animation and kids. There's a lot of lifestyle that lifestyle talent that's in there as well, factual entertainment. I think I'm interested in seeing kind of how, as an operator of our brands and our owned and operated platforms, what are we going to lean into in other genres? So that's exciting to me to start playing around with. And I think otherwise, Magellan has had a really great, strong US presence. And I'm really interested specifically in this next year to see if we can leverage our international presence that we've built up through our various other activities and see if we can roll out Magellan in a more meaningful way internationally. So, yeah, new genres, watch this space, see where we lean into. And for all those international listeners, watch out for Magellan TV because it's coming your way.
Excellent. That's very exciting times. All right. Well, thanks again, Carlyn, so much for joining us on Inside Content. And yeah, looking forward to seeing everything of the many, many things it seems that are coming up in 2026 for Blue Ant Media.
Thanks, Jack. It was a pleasure to chat with you about what's going on. And thanks for inviting me on.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Inside Content, the TV industry podcast brought to you by 3Vision. With decades of TV industry experience and real-world success, we know the ins and outs of the market like nobody else. To learn more about our TV consultancy services, head to 3vision.tv.